All right, what's up, fellas? Sorry, I am late. I got the baby and a lot of other stuff I'm dealing with. I was watching Ashton's stream get shut down. They just nerfed him for policy violations, I guess, talking about other platforms and stuff other than YouTube is a policy violation. So just talking about that was a no-go. But Ashton's been diving into a lot of the technologies since he became convinced that those videos were from the Espers system and legit, leaked from a source in the Philippines. And so he's gone down that whole rabbit hole with a lot of the MH370 stuff, as I've talked about. The same kind of stuff that's going on with all these kinds of things is when there's a kernel of truth somewhere in the mix, as I've pointed out there is with the Freescale semiconductor connections, and the fact that companies that I've connected to 9/11 through my research ran uh, the bought Freescale semiconductors shortly before that plane with those 20 Freescale semiconductor scientists went missing on it. I've always thought that that was part of it. They stopped the search. They never found the bodies, so they stopped the search, and then they were able to give up those patents yet less than 5 years later, instead of waiting for them to run out normally. So some people got money off whatever other patents there were in the mix there, and I think that there needs to be a congressional oversight and panel that looks into that, as well as this whole Espers system, right? So space-based infrared is huge, and you'll notice that if you go to other big channels and start talking about some of these keywords, because all it takes is there's an algorithm now that scans everything you say and everything you talk about and runs it through an algorithm search. And if you say certain keywords or phrases, you can get flagged, and they'll immediately put up a bunch of flags on your channel, which is what we just saw happen to these streams getting nerfed and shut down for talking about certain keywords or saying certain things and certain phrases. In fact, if you type certain phrases, if you talk about anything that's classified, there's classified words and phrases of classified program names and anything like that get put into a word bank somewhere. There's some kind of algorithm that tests for that stuff. So what's really funny is that what I'll do is I'll do browser isolation. I'll open up Google, I'll open up Brave, and I'll open up another one. Sometimes I'll do it on my phone separately, just so there's no background cookies that are shared on both platforms somehow. But basically, you can see in the live stream, if you type in certain stuff, certain things you type in on the live chat, they just won't show up. Right, if I type in certain phrases, so you see it says it shows up for me, and it might show up because I'm an admin on this particular channel. I noticed that admin comments don't get censored. They're not able to censor those the same way that they censor just normal user comments. But I mentioned something classified that's related to a classified program, and a lot of times it will get censored and just and censored off the chat. So wanted to let people in on that piece of information of one of they got it all run and bots running all this stuff now. It's all run by computers with algorithms running behind the scenes. And I'm hoping that I get more people in on these technologies. Of course, Eric Davis testified before these hearings, and it's super interesting that they're talking to some of these experts who are guys that worked very closely with some of these programs, some of the real programs. and know a certain amount about the real physics and the real technologies and stuff. Although I have a feeling that they're only allowed to say certain things. And yeah, so I can see a lot of these comments, certain things like that. It's not classified, so it's not going to censor it, and it's not like super X-rated. So, yeah. But Anna Paulina Luna is holding these hearings. And I wanted to point out with any of these congressional hearings that anytime they have these congressional oversight hearings on anything, what the CIA and the intelligence agencies usually do is they get ahead of these things, and they make sure that that people that they either know are controlled or something. They're not going to let a guy. It kind of slipped through the cracks a little bit, I believe, on the on the JFK hearings. Of course, it's been too long that they can't really cover so much of that up, because a lot of the research that's been done on that. I really hope there's 9/11 hearings, and that they, invite some of the key people, like, Kurt Weldon and some of these other experts that I've interviewed on my channel for the 9/11 stuff, because that and the JFK hearings are super, super important to the freedom of the United States and our future, that we know what exactly happened in all those cases. And, like we've seen so much of in the JFK file stuff, for example, they get ahead of the narrative, and they put out all this stuff about the limo driver shot Kennedy, or a guy from the storm drain, or it was Israel and the Jews and Mossad, and all these conspiracy theories that are put out there on the surface level to really promoted by the algorithm and the bots, and really engagement farmed up. They've are able to get ahead of a lot of these narratives and sort of control and frame people's the way that people understand and come to look at these things, so that when they do see real information, as we saw in the last interview that we did on this channel, I think you can go to Bernie streaming this on Crypto Alchemist. So I know he probably kept that interview up, but I was getting called in the background, and I had a lot going on that night, so it wasn't just the stream and the guest that they had on, but we had a guest on the other night that was this Elaine Freeland. And it's just funny that these people come across pure disinformation in their searches. Genuine people who are genuinely searching for the truth come across disinformation. It's just so prevalent out there. There's bots that are designed, as soon as you start researching or talking about this stuff, they will show up and show you false rabbit holes to fall down, and all disinformation holes to really get yourself trapped up on a lot of bullshit that you don't really have the resources. I mean, some of the stuff, it's taken me years and tons of resources to resolve a lot of burning questions in the field of UFOs. And it doesn't just come out overnight, and it takes a lot of money sometimes to research some of these more complex conspiracy theories, like Eric Hecker's idea that we got a phased array radar system in the ice cube neutrino detector on the South Pole. That's going to take some time to verify and vet, and going through the process of doing that, I've slowly going down those rabbit holes. For next time we have him on, I'll have more information and follow up on and doing real research and showing that. Ashton's touching the surface on a lot of this physics stuff. I know I've seen a lot of people get involved in some of this crazy physics stuff and totally lose their minds. And it's a good thing to become passionate about. But there's a lot of science to this, man, and there's a lot of skepticism that needs to be thrown at all this stuff, because nobody you know, whether it's Eric Davis or Hal Puthoff or Franklin Mead or Lake Marabou or any of these other people who've worked on the scientists who've worked on like these deep black aerospace technologies that are on the cutting edge. Patent holders like Kevin Kremeyer, and I mean, I have huge lists of these people, and we've interviewed tons of them, of the breakthrough scientists too, that are getting contracts from DARPA to do a lot of this advanced research. So Avi Loeb is relative newcomer into all this. You know, I've been doing this 20 years, and I don't know what Avi Loeb was doing 20 years ago, but you know, I'm sure he doesn't have the UFO case knowledge or the physics case knowledge, and just the general consensus of all the scientists and database of all the scientists I have. I wish that I could be in charge in this seat right here. I don't really think I could testify, but I'd just be too afraid I'd make something. I'd mess something up, and then they got me for lying to Congress now because I messed up, you know, one factor. I mixed one thing up, and I just would be so afraid under that much pressure. I don't know how I'd be able to deal with that position. That's just whew. But I'd love to be in this seat or this seat, just this guy's seat, rather, saying, all right, well, here's a list of all the witnesses that we're going to call up and come to testify and to tell Congress and the American people just exactly what the heck is going on with all these UFO programs, so that we can put a lot of this stuff to bed, you know, especially with what they're trying to do with Arrow. And Arrow's wasted a lot of its time just debunking the very popular frauds, which I believe that's a cycle that they perpetuate in the media. They prop up these Jeremy Corbells and give them their own shows on TMZ, and they prop up a lot of that artificial zoo of propaganda. UFO revolution, right? It's called, you know, if you have a TV show on TMZ, you're not the UFO revolution. You're really just peddling some stuff that is, you know, maybe a kernel of little bit of truth, but with a lot of nonsense mixed in to really not lead you, you know. So this is what the CIA does with a lot of things, is that they'll create a false narrative, or at least prop up people that can be easily misled through their own sources or through their ego. You know, Jeremy Corbell's got a huge ego, thinks he has all these great sources. So you just feed him disinfo through those sources, and you can control the narrative through a guy like this. You mean, you give him a little kernel of something that sounds like the truth, but it's really just not. It's misdirection, and that's what I believe a lot of these players we're seeing come out, and they keep adding more. And yeah, again, they keep adding more to the mix, is what I believe. I believe that a lot of these guys were, you know, falsely inserted into the narrative. Yeah, and many of them, not just one or two, just a lot of them. And I also believe that the community that's risen up within ufology, you know what, and Dan, Solar Man, I'm gonna bring you on this right now. In fact, I'm sending you the link, because Dan knows this more than anyone in this field. He's been a researcher for even longer than I have, and I just sent that link to your email, Dan. If you're good to join us, you're welcome to. But yeah, this is just a very important. When people come out fully formed with no sort of, you know, real background in this stuff, we know the people that have the background in the UFO game, if the researchers that have been doing this the longest and really have the best information. And Dan's seen that firsthand. Our friend Michael Schratt has seen that firsthand. They have the database and the information that is the real UFO file. And this made for TV stuff is sort of is interesting entertainment, you know. But for instance, I was at the UAP hackathon, as you guys know, last weekend, or maybe it was the week before that. And let me see, Tim Ventura probably has the pictures posted of this UAP hackathon. Yeah, he's got a bunch of the videos posted here. So if you follow at Tim Ventura, he's got a lot of the videos from the UAP hackathon that we went to posted here. Got to talk to Jesse Michaels, got to talk to Danny Sheen. I got interviews with both of them that should be coming out soon. We got to meet with Jack Sarfati, and actually, you know, hang out, take some photos, and have a great time. And yeah, we had a great time actually meeting and hanging out with Jack. That was a highlight of the trip. And I asked him if we could. I set up the live stream, and I was going to do that with him, but he really didn't. When I got there and we actually had it, we couldn't get a good internet connection. There's a lot of noise, and also, he also said like a lot of the information is going dark. It's going black. This stuff is real, and it's going into a development phase that a number of people in Silicon Valley are getting involved with. It's interesting. I didn't get to meet Gary Nolan. He was only there the first night and then he left. But I did get to meet his colleague and associate here, Peter Skafish, which, you know, it's a strange last name, but no offense, bro. He's an interesting dude. He thinks he's super elite and smart and has lots of friends and connections and stuff. But you know, he hasn't been doing this as long as I have, and I really wish I'd gotten more chance to talk to him
about. And it'll be really weird because it'll be a case I know about, and then there's so many that he knows about that I don't know about that are just insane stuff. You know, like he's really into the crash retrieval right now, and I think that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, they definitely don't like that thread being tugged, and there's a lot of disinformation that's put out in the path. I think he's stumbled upon a lot of that early on, but I think he's working through it the deeper he digs into a lot of this stuff, you know, as we have over the years. You know, you waste a lot of time chasing these red herrings that are put out for you, and then you lose scent of
oh man, the red herrings. Jesus, you know,
Bob Lazar is one huge one because he's like immediately is like this. It's just straight
they're out of money. That listen, that was supposed to be in December. That show, the Luigi, whatever his name is, seems like a real nice guy. They put 2.5 million, I think, in that in the in this new show that's coming out, but it's not going to show anything new. Bob, if you're watching this, which I know you watch me because I know for a fact you watch me and Jeremy, we talk to Huff, and there's some things that I know Bob has said about me. I've talked to Bob. Now, here's the thing. We're now moved the whole way back to July or August because Michael Schrack got me front row tickets out there. I'm going to it. But
huh?
you know what's funny?
Vegas?
You don't, huh?
They're screening it in Vegas. You're going?
Absolutely. I'm gonna have front row seats. I'm gonna meet Gene Huff there. Yeah.
Dude, you got to get an interview.
You know what's really funny? I heard that Jeremy Corbell's not invited.
Good.
That's what's funny. And I believe that to be true because you and I both know how certain people feel about him. And what's funny is on their show, you never hear them talk about Bob anymore at all. You never hear them talking about this thing, this.
They've completely moved on and been like, no, we're the kings of ufology, and they don't even talk about Bob anymore. And every once in a while, he would mention that he's going to get Bob back on, or they're going to do a special on it. But like, it's not a peep, dude. They won't even touch this story anymore, and that's very telling. It's very telling of the situation that they have a huge show that on TMZ the UFO revolution, and they're
They
getting
get paid for it.
millions of views. They're
Yeah.
getting paid millions of dollars, and to think that that's not a propaganda mill is
Well, exactly. It's run by the government and attorneys. It's Hollywood, and let's face it, Hollywood is a very evil, disgusting
Yes.
place that is
Yeah.
a has been. They said they're not even going to be making movies there anymore recently. Did you see that last week? That
Yeah.
Hollywood's done.
See through the fake shit now.
The
It's
internet's taken over, brother. The
and
internet's taken over. The news stations are done. Okay. You want real news? I find my real news from these guys, some of these military guys that tell it like it is. And then all of a sudden, they'll have a real big growing channel. It's like, wow, we got another 1,500 subs in 2 days. And then like a week later, they'll get like 10 subs that week. And you know what happens, Jeremy, like what
yeah,
happened to your channel.
you
You
get
had over 100,000 subscribers a long time ago,
right.
and you had to email them and get on their case just to get you a plaque. I
Well, same thing
mean,
with Ashton. Ashton's got his channel nerfed at around. They stopped him at like 79K. He was getting big. It's like 3/4 of a way to a silver plaque.
yeah, I want to
Also,
say something about
he
Ashton.
turned
Let
he
me ask you
turned off a
something.
lot of people too with his with his attitude and the way that he's acted
Yeah,
in a lot of
yeah,
interviews.
he acts like he knows more than the physicist, but he's got South bias on there. Okay. What were they talking about the other day when they said it'll be dirty and you'll never do it again? What were they talking about? Whistleblowers.
They're talking about the most powerful weapons that have replaced the nukes, and if you want to know
Uh,
what they are, they're the gazers.
you're talking about it's a beam that goes faster than the speed of light, is what you're talking about, right?
You don't know about the gazer?
Show me.
Well, I learned about this because I started reading into all the different. I wanted to learn every element on the periodic table and really get into chemistry, and all the physical chemistry, right? And one of the things you learn about in physical chemistry is hafnium
I'm still on here. I'm turning
isomers.
my camera off. Go ahead.
And this hafnium isomer is a particularly interesting candidate for induced gamma emissions, IgE experiments. And so it's basically a cascade emission of gamma rays. So it's a way to make a gamma ray laser. You can read about the gamma ray laser it's called the grazer. I call it the gazer because it just sounds funnier.
And that's what Sal was talking about.
That's one of the weapons Sal could have been talking about. I don't think that might have been
Phaser.
the actual
So
one.
a
If they
phaser
got
is a sound laser, right? So it's sound beams focused into almost like physical matter-ish,
Okay.
right?
Well, they use this hafnium and there's a big shell of it in the
Hey,
H
Bernie,
bomb.
what's up?
And to get the H bomb reaction going, you got to have a ton of gammas all reflected and focused in an area. So what they do is they set them off using this hafnium. Apparently, is this is like one of the H bomb secrets. And
Jeremy, are you sure? Jeremy, are you sure that's not that weapon?
There's
That looks
another key part, and Ashton's actually been bringing it up a little bit today. He was talking about it, and it is
he's gonna get run over by a
it's the
train. But go
lower
ahead.
hydrogen
hey,
phase shift energy. That you're able to get exponential energy gain out of electrochemical reactions with the phase state changes, and that is how you get the massive gains in and out of the fusion and electron shell states.
Jeremy, we're about truth on here, and I just want to ask you something. How did Ashton go from just that crazy video that I still will never believe? I don't know if you believe it. I do not believe that video, that MH370,
been
to being this
skeptical.
like
I have to
physicist
state
guy.
one thing here. I'm going to
How did
state
you do
one
that
thing.
in a year or two? How did this happen? I don't understand it. He
Okay,
was
I
an
mean,
insurance guy or
understand.
something before.
He
How?
he was getting like
I
1,000,
understand.
2,000 live viewers per video and stuff,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's got less subscribers than me. It's like
Well,
he,
no, how he's doing it is he's being put on the all or he's getting on like the all larger alt podcast where they
yeah,
I
like
he's
look
got
at
a lot
know.
of viewers
redacted,
been
look at
going
his
on. He's
redacted
got on
interviews. They're
Candace
at 5 million.
Owens.
Look at the
Candace Owens.
Candace Owens. They're all in the millions. So that's how he's still sustainably doing it. But
Yeah,
I want to state one thing with that video is that whether you believe it or not, the fact of the matter is that the only people that had the capability of producing something of that quality with that information in it, whether it was fake or real, in the time frame that they got released, had to be the military. So it's like that's one
Do you
aspect.
think he might be connected to them through disinformation or what? There's
I,
something
I don't
about him that just throws me off. I don't, and he knows it. I've told him right to his face. He believes Bob Lazar too. He's got
I
Sal
don't think he
Paez on
does.
there too.
I
Is
don't think he
somebody
believes
that
Bob.
Jeremy, you tried to get on your show for a long time, and it took a while to get on. Remember? He just got him on like he was nothing. It was like, where did he come from? Here's what I want to know, Jeremy.
yeah.
Is the stuff he's saying, does he know what he's talking about? That's what I want to know.
She does, it seems.
He
Like it seems like the
to a certain
community is
extent.
learning.
I mean, I believe he got fooled by Dave Rossi and those guys. I don't trust that
He
Dave
actually
Rossi
spoke
guy.
out against Rossi today. He actually put
He's
him in the same category as like Colehart and Corbell and shit. It was interesting.
Dave Rossi, just an interesting guy, with the whole Gen Z and the stuff. He would come into the stream and just like, I
it's
remember
just
like he's
it's
just
just he
really
came a long way, and like, dude, he's only been around what, a year and a half, I think.
3 years
Because
now. 2 years.
because
2 years.
I'll never forget it. He was on the news. That one
oh,
the one girl from that used to be on Fox News that's
Understand.
hot as hell. That blonde, what's her name? Megan Kelly had him on her show the other week.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Megyn
It's
Kelly
like
had who on?
Megan Kelly had
Ashton Ford.
yeah, she had what's his name on? We were just talking about him, Ashton Forbes.
That's,
Really?
She had him
that's what I'm
on.
saying. He's actually like literally doing like 5 different interviews with like million viewer like podcasts a week. It's wild. And it's like he's been
Yes.
on Alex Jones. He did Randall Carlson last night. He's like, it's crazy. He's like literally on everyone. And it's like, I, I don't know. I honestly don't know. And he does come off very, very glowy.
Cocky.
Very glowy, and yes, he's definitely. I've it's the ego's involved
Really
with, right?
convinced. I
But
mean, he
the
uses
thing
that.
is, he
It's a
seems
nice
to do
vehicle
science.
to sell
Though.
the science stuff. I mean, it
Yeah,
works,
he's
man.
doing the science.
But
That's the one benefit is he's getting
hey,
him the
Ashton's
momentum
here in the
behind
chat,
it.
dude. He's watching our shit. Ashton tunes in, man. He knows we dig deep on this channel, and he gets a lot of ammunition from us on stuff, dude. Ashton, I would love for you to join the stream, man,
Come on in, dude. I
jump on
just
here and crash.
listen. They showed plenty of evidence
I sent
to
you the link
me
email.
to prove to me that plane video he's got is total bullcrap.
Yeah,
I do not believe it for 1 minute. They even showed the guy who took the pictures of the clouds during the day.
See, that is disinfo because that has been disproved, and it's
What
like
has?
the cloud fucking stock photo shit. Like that's absolute bullshit. But what has been proven is that there's like every aspect of those videos
Thanks, Ashton. I appreciate that.
is the pure like signals in like it meets the military criteria of the actual video that had to be like the what would have been recorded from the military spy like
yeah.
infrastructure. It's like no random person could just come up with all of those details and knowledge and think and include all of it into
I
their
think
faith
Ashton's
in
going to
their
jump in and
time.
join us, but I wanted to. He did a reality check on this Ashton Forbes theory. I don't know if you guys seen the Ross Coulthart
Yeah, I
report.
watch all his
Yeah, I
stuff.
heard.
Some people don't like Ross. He has good guests on.
Why is that? Ross
He does have
Coulthart
some
is
decent guests
all
on from time to time. I wish
pro.
he'd have Ashton on, but instead he
Orbs and
like
plasma orbs and
I thought he
pumping the
did.
orbs fully for so long,
okay.
and
Hold
then
up.
all of a
I
sudden
want to
now it's an
play the
egg
clip.
shape, an egg thing, and
Ashton is
comes in
here,
and just
and
says
All right.
debunked
Oh, what's
because
hey
up?
of the
guys,
cloud pictures. But the
Bernie,
cloud picture, some random person claiming that they took a cloud picture, uh, does not account
Bernie.
for all of the classified military
How do you, no, wait a minute,
intelligence.
listen, Bernie, how do you know this for a fact? I don't get it. I don't get how you
Yeah,
know.
I
How
wanted
that's my
do you
opinion.
know that
But
guy's pictures were fake?
Well, let me ask you this. So the first question should be this: where's the plane? Like, there's a real plane in those videos. It's 11 years later. We got where is it? We searched where they think they claim they know it crashed in this 11th arc, and they've got no idea. So the first question is not just where's the plane, but how did anybody that made those videos, for those videos to be fake, somebody had to have the foresight to know 11 years in the future we were never going to find anything. This is the first thing that people need to understand. They need to
They
not.
found part of one of the wings, I thought. I saw it
What does that mean? What does
with the
that mean?
serial number and everything.
What does it mean?
That means that the plane crashed into the ocean somewhere.
It doesn't. It doesn't mean that.
Ashton, 95% of the ocean has not been explored. That doesn't mean that thing didn't go.
Okay, let me
If
address
you-
2 points. 1 point.
Yeah.
The amount of debris they found does not mean the plane crashed. In fact, the flap also doesn't mean the plane crashed. Those planes can fly and land without the flap. Now, the other part about, the ocean's really big. This is all, by the way, like straight up, and I'm not meaning to be rude, but you've been conditioned to think this because the whole
No, I
point,
haven't. I've
Yeah,
watched that
yeah.
video and I've watched them recreate it
This
pretty
is
damn
really,
easily on that one show.
Scholar,
let me finish. The whole point is that they claim to know we have these satellite pings. And these satellite pings tell us where the plane was, how far away from the satellite the plane was. And from this, they figured out the plane must be along these arcs. And they said, okay, we know the plane was pinging until it ran out of fuel. The point I'm making is they claim to know where the plane is. It's not a situation where they could be anywhere in the ocean. It has to be somewhere along that arc, and they've already searched everywhere. They've already searched everywhere along the arc, and they never found anything.
Hey, the same thing happened with the planes during World War II. What was it? 9 of them or something like that?
How
So
about
here's
the
the question.
1920s ship?
How did the person, no matter how the videos are fake, no matter who faked them, the circumstances, no matter what they think are real or not, how did the person know we would never find the plane?
It's hard to find stuff in the ocean, though. It's
No.
just
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
a
How
bet.
did the person that faked the videos know we would never find the plane?
No, it's a safe bet though to make. I mean, the Cotopaxi went missing in the 1920s, and I think it took them almost 100 years to find it. It's right off the Florida Keys, and
This isn't the 1920s.
You know, I do agree with Ashton on one thing. Where would the luggage you would think would at least float? That's one thing I always thought of. And luggage is always like bright colors, so you can see the damn stuff.
So yeah, here's the problem, right? Is that
Hey, and I want to tell you something, Ashton. You're wrong because I was one of Warren York's best friends. We studied MH370 for years, and he claimed that it went into like another dimension, is what he claimed. That's what he claimed. He would probably be right along with you. And Warren York was one of those brilliant people I've ever met in my life. He was an absolute genius who worked for the military, was in Vietnam, all kinds of stuff. He died a couple years ago. He was convinced that thing went into another dimension. Absolutely 100%.
So here's the point, though, is that the cloud images. So they just planted the cloud images from the actual surveillance, not from the videos. No one took pictures of the videos and then put them onto the internet. Way too complicated. No, the intelligence community that was recording it just took it. Whammy footage is actually pictures that they stacked together to make video. And in fact, the whole point of the software is that can do that. So for someone
And
to
the
think,
orbs
oh,
and the orbs are made by the United States, is what you're saying. You were saying,
well, I
or the New
believe
World
they are
Order.
based on the videos. The whole point of those videos, the whole significance is they imply the United States government has that tech because that's a covert operation. The videos are showing a covert operation playing out, which is just another point where it's like, you can't just dismiss the videos because, oh, you think it might be VFX, or even because somebody says, oh, here's some cloud pictures.
Oh, I'm open-minded. I'm open-minded.
Because the weight of the evidence is so powerful, because we're seeing a literal operation in the videos. It's not like the videos are randomly recording this plane. They're recording that plane with purpose, which implies those orbs are controlled by the people doing the recording. And this is the whole thing about them, which normally I came into this and I wanted to be impartial because I wanted to see how people in the community reacted. Because then I
Bro,
can
you're
judge
still
them.
going, and I'm blown away. I honestly thought it would last like a couple of weeks. And who were you on recently
Yeah.
with? Was it Megan Kelly? Who was it? You were on with one of those.
I want to address that too,
Was
real
it
quick,
Megan
because
Kelly?
the point
Who
is,
was it?
like, if the videos are real, then that's how you would expect this to play out. Is more and more evidence should cause it to kind of build up, and that's just been kind of my approach on it. It was interesting when, like Bernie pointed out, Ashton's been on these huge podcasts with like millions of views. That's actually that is significant, honestly, and it's not. It was just because I've been saying the things that I think are going to come true, and then you hear crazy shit like the White House science guys say that we can manipulate space and time. And now everyone's going, oh, this guy Ashton's been like yelling that we've figured that out.
When you say the White House science guy, are you talking about Eric Davis?
No, Kratsios, the advisor to the president.
Oh, okay. Yes.
But
So,
even Eric Davis, like,
what-
so truth to you guys is I've just been trying to come and figure it out. And what's happened is I've slowly aligned with like people like Jeremy and Bernie, and I presumably you as well, that believe that, you know, there are factions that have figured this stuff out, and there's a disinformation campaign to like keep people away from it. And I've been doing
it's an oxymoron, really. It's crazy.
But you have to, for me, I had to come into it without a bias to try to uncover that and figure it out. And to me, it's been very clear. To your point about why am I not on News Nation? Well, because I'm not telling the story they want to tell. They want to tell a story that it's alien technology that we can't understand. Don't think about if we figured it out. That's national security.
Exactly.
Like,
Okay, I have to
aliens.
add one thing into this right now that is so key. And it starts out with, oh, Bob Lazar, right? Like, so at work, I'm just randomly trying to like talk to like random construction workers.
That was me all the time.
The first thing they're like, always bring up is, oh, Bob Lazar, right? Like all that. It's like, are you? No. And here's why. One, unatabium. What, like, regardless if that's the actual name, it's like it's unfucking attainable to the average person. So don't even ever like dream of doing this, you know. And then number two, hydrogen. Oh, he has the hydrogen working car, but it's unattainable to the average person. So
the hydrogen working car in the 30s, brother.
Yeah. But it's like he has to take hydrogen, then turn it into, not only produce it, but then
to rejet it.
Freaking sulfide, freaking compound solid that then has to re-transfer into hydrogen before being used, right? So it's so
what are you saying?
Stupid. It's impossible. Where real hydrogen, here's the thing, here's why it is 10 years away always. No, it's fully fucking developed to like the most extreme efficient engines and everything. Why it is being held back is because the only efficient way to do it is water as your fuel. Water that is instantly split and then put into hydrogen and oxygen into the tank or into the fuel injection on site. The ridiculousness of having to split hydrogen somewhere else, then ship this explosive stuff compressed through pipes, then store it here, then carry it compressed in your vehicle that could explode at any time, and all of this danger and inefficiency that's taking more resource energies to get this energy that you're using as your fuel. It's stupid.
Well, so here's the thing.
Actually, the pipes now are made out of. Actually, the pipes are actually made out of a thing that's very similar to.
The point is, you don't need pipes. The most energy efficient and cheapest thing is just having a tank of water that you just put a little bit of electricity and charge into right before you pump that reaction gas into your fuel injection, and it's boom. It powers your vehicle. That is the whole point. If you're wrapping your mind around what I'm saying,
listen. If I change the jetting in the one car I have right now, I could run it on hydrogen. That's all you have to do is change the jetting.
exactly.
You have to absolutely
Everyone can.
change all your fuel lines because you can't
That's
mix
the
gas
whole
and hydrogen
point.
together.
That's bringing it back to Bob Lazar. It's the thing that is mass produced and fed to everyone, and it's unattainable to the average person. Where in fact, these technologies.
We got Ashton on. This is
Wait a
we're
minute
going
here.
forward. Bob Lazar is going 30 years into the back.
Bob Lazar did that video with John Farrat. Do you know who John Farrat is? It's Bob Lazar's buddy.
Bro, I don't care about John Farrat. I don't care about any of this stuff.
Fuck all of those people.
Fuck
Bob Lazar.
Fuck Bob Lazar. We're stopping to talk about Bob Lazar. We got Ashton Forbes on. I want to go 30 years in the future, not 30 years in the past. It's nonsense. We've done so many debunks on that on this channel. I don't think we could even do anymore. And nobody watches the old ones we did. Why? It's nonsense to even talk about the subject anymore. It's the past. We have to talk. You know, when Ashton's getting on these podcasts and in these big channels, this is an important opportunity because we have an Overton window. There's only so many times they're going to allow this out in the news cycle before they squash it, and you need to we need to ensure that you're getting key information out there into the public's mindset, that you're not getting, you know, because we can sit here and argue too all night over, you know, what Ross did, you know, and Ross Coldheart's reporting on the Ashton Forbes drama, which is, you know, to go after the, you know, nitpick the credibility. And
do you know why he's doing that though?
Because they're the gatekeepers.
And
yeah, so
what's crazy? Can I just finish this? I just want to make one point. I'll let you have the floor, Ashton. This is so key because he says right in the thing is that Ashton believes that aliens zapped the plane and warped it to another dimension. And I watched a lot of your shows, Ashton. I think I'm a moderator on your channel just because I help fact check and get a lot of science stuff for you when we talk. I love those streams the most. That's my jam. And when he said that, I'm like, dude, Ashton totally rejects the idea that it's extraterrestrial technology. He talks about all the programs, about all of our stuff. He says this is our stuff. So when, you know, I'm like, this is bad reporting. This is poor journalism on behalf of News Nation and Ross. And you know, I said, Ross, you know, he says, oh, I don't care. The videos are fake. And that's all that matters. You know, as long as we can debunk the videos and assure that those are fake, then none of the other stuff matters. And I said, no, all the other stuff matters more important. And you're, you know, throwing the baby out with the bathwater that you've seen. So yeah, I think it was very telling. But yeah, go ahead, Ashton. I want you to elaborate. I just wanted to.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is pretty funny where they'll be like, oh, you know, this has been debunked, but like, you know, he's pushing that egg video. He talked that egg video up as being like the proof of all the, you know, the crash retrievals. I'm just like, bro, how can you come at me and say something's been debunked and therefore we like shouldn't listen or talk to somebody? Like,
right. And
like you said, you debunked everything they've ever said. And then the other point as well is like, why is he even bringing this up? They've been silent. They've never mentioned me. And that's the other thing I noticed is they don't mention me. They don't mention MH370, but a lot of them have been cornered on it. And some of them have spoken. It's because they're getting pinged about it all the time.
Yeah.
So people are messaging them.
And they should be, you know.
And they should be, exactly. And they're getting tired of it, right? And so he's kind of blowing he
hasn't done his research, man. He hasn't even looked into any of this stuff. And if he did, he'd be like, holy shit, and reporting on, you know, but I don't even think they're allowed to report on a lot of the stuff that we are as independent journalists are actually finding and reporting on. I think it's so cool.
Take a good close look at him. I think he is an alien. There's something about the way he looks. But I want to say something here real quick, Jeremy, that has to be brought up. Who was the first guy that talked about the SR-71, let's say? Ed Fouché was the first one that ever talked about orbs and stuff that almost looked like it was alive, flying around the front of the SR-71 Blackbird at its top speed, like it was doing nothing. And he did that as 1998 IUFOC presentation. We can go back and watch that. Ed was the first one to say that. And I don't remember anyone ever saying anything like that. And it's similar. It would be exactly almost as what the Ashton is saying. That's what freaks me out about the whole thing,
Let
because
me add some more to you.
Ed
Because
said that it was orbs, and Ed said it was like they were alive. He said it was like they were human. And
So-
remember this, Jeremy? Ed said this. He also said this, and the pilots get sick. Ed said that the one pilot, I know his name, I'm not going to say it. He's still alive. I've spoken to him. He said it was like bees on my brain. He said it sounded like bees inside his brain, and it almost made him go crazy when these orbs were flying around, and it was 2 and 3 all the time. And they were going around this thing, and it was going like, I don't know, 3,000 miles an hour max speed. They never declassified the max speed, but I think it's like, what, 3,800 miles an hour.
yeah,
Ed
these are
said
plasma.
it was like bees. Play it once, Jeremy, where he says that part. He's the only one. He was the very first one, but Ed's the liar, though, right, Nat?
Yeah, Ed's the liar.
Now you're talking about the tr3b coming out of the ocean, aren't
Ed
you,
talked about
Jeremy?
the
And
Foggles too. Bob Lazar never mentioned the Foggles. He said they walked around the base with nothing on it. He never mentioned the Foggles.
exactly.
You don't forget discomfort.
Yes. And I want to hear that part where Ed says, about the damn. It's really interesting. I want Ashton to hear it.
Yeah, let me find the part about the. I'm gonna have
Because Ashton, this is so important. Ed was my best friend, and I know a lot of shit that he's told me. And when you came out with that video, I'm like, wow, that. And then everybody just said it was fake, and I was like, yeah, well, maybe this guy's just fucking with people. Well, what you said is exactly what Ed would say. He would say the control was incredible, the speed was unbelievable. They were orbs, but he said it was like when they got close to the pilots got sick, and it was like there were bees in their brains, he kept saying. And imagine that sound, like thousands of bees in their brains going off, and they
took over
couldn't
the operation. It was
Yeah.
designated the SR-71 Blackbird. My friend Chuck, an SR-71 pilot,
Yep.
related to me an in-flight incident he had in the 1970s. He was returning from a reconnaissance flight, was at an altitude of 74,000 feet and a speed of Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound. He noticed something flickering in his peripheral vision. Hovering over his left wingtip was a ball of dense plasma-like light. When he stared at it for more than a few seconds, it hurt his eyes. Chuck tried to use his UHF, VHF, and HF communications test to no avail. There was nothing but static. Repeatedly glancing at the ball of light, he watched in amazement as it moved effortlessly about his aircraft. At one point, the light positioned itself a few feet in front of the spiked cone of the air intake inlet. The enormous amount of air rushing into the engines should have sucked in and shredded almost anything in its path, but the light orb was mysteriously unaffected. The light, he noted, acted in a curious manner, if something inanimate could act in a curious manner, or act in any manner at all. It moved from time to time to other parts of the aircraft, staying until its approach to Beale Air Force Base, California. It was inside of the air base when the plasma ball finally pulled away from the aircraft in a wide arc at ever-increasing speeds. Of course, after reading this incident report, his operations commander told him never to speak of this incident. When Chuck related the story to me, he was absolutely convinced this plasma ball was controlled by some form of intelligence. I have over 24 stories from pilots of similar incidents with UFOs and plasma balls.
what's that sound like?
Have you ever heard stories about missing memory? Sal worked a program for 2 years in a top secret research facility in California. At the end of the program, he started having flu-like symptoms. And after several days of worsening symptoms, went to his company doctor. His company prescribed some medication and sent him home for 2 days. On the third day, he woke up and couldn't remember where he worked. or who he worked for. He called his brother. His brother, in a panic, called up the company. The company informed him that his job had been terminated because his contract had run out.
Yeah, I don't. That's a crazy part of it. It almost sounded like Havana syndrome or something. But then so
Yeah, but I mean, they answered all this. I mean, this is all old news for you guys, right? Like,
this is all old stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that so long ago. It's ridiculous, and that's why your video interested me in the first place. But you got so much negative attention about it that I had just I'll tell you what, if that video's real, I apologize, but
Still getting negative.
I had been negative on it, but I was never a dick about it.
All right.
Let me ask
visit
people that have some donos. They want to add a couple quick questions on it. They wanted to know about the Inmarsat satellite pings. So United States intelligence controls the Inmarsat satellite pings. So to the point that was being made earlier, like where if we didn't find anything where those satellite pings claim that the plane was, then why do we think the satellite pings were real? The point I was trying to make earlier is the debris that was found is from MH370. It's just in the wrong location, which means the satellite pings must be fake. Now, the cloud pictures, I said this earlier, but there's only two explanations. Either someone found these cloud images on the internet and they used them to create these elaborate videos, two videos from different positions, right? Different orientations, different angles. Or somebody planted those images on the internet afterwards from the real imagery. Those are the only two things, in my opinion, that can happen. Now, the problem with them being fake is that on the Wayback Machine where these images exist, they only go back to 2016, 2 years after the videos were already published on the internet. Yes, their metadata says they're from 2012, but the metadata doesn't matter because the story is, remember, somebody found them on the internet and used them to make the videos. We found the photographer. They're not the person that made the videos. So they have to be somewhere online, and there's no evidence of them being online. That's the problem. So one of the stories that I mentioned must be true. So is that the last? Okay, go ahead.
What about the guy that was arrested? What was it? Just named Jeremy Lin or something like that?
Yeah, and so Edward Lynn's the guy that leaked the videos. He changed his name. Like, there's so much evidence that, like, clearly, the videos are real. It's just hard for people to accept what we see in the
What
videos.
do you think they did with him? Like if he changed his name and stuff like that, they probably relocated him, gave him a couple $1 million and said, shut up and hide here for the rest of your life.
They just said they'll just kill him if he says anything, or he'll go back to prison. So
did you see that interview with that guy named, I believe his name was Matt Brown, and he's come out as a whistleblower, and he claims that if someone doesn't protect him, like right away, he's going to get life in prison or the death penalty. It just came out in the past couple of days. Have you seen that interview?
Yeah, I mean, those guys are not going to get killed. Like, if they were to actually speak, maybe, but they're not going to actually speak.
Well, these were former military guys, though. They signed paperwork. He claims he didn't. He claims he didn't. The Immaculate, what is it called?
One more thing on that, and I can't stay for very long here because I was already streaming, but I want to just add one more thing to the cloud picture thing. When you reverse image search the pictures, they don't go back to the website. They go back to Reddit when you reverse image search the pictures. The person who claimed to have found the pictures, their story makes no sense. It's like an anonymous, like days old Reddit account as well. And then the last thing is these pictures are supposedly from a larger set of photos. The cloud photos are. Here's what's weird about it. Ariel's 0028 is just these 5 photos. And supposedly these 5, and all 5 of these combined create the MH370 videos. They're claiming they're from a different set of photos, a larger set. We found the larger set on the Wayback Machine in like 2013. These photos aren't in there. We looked at torrents as well. Those photos aren't in the torrents as well. So the point being, I'm not trying to make up some rational explanation. I'm just saying, like, the evidence stacks up where those things weren't necessarily there. So hopefully that answers the questions for the person who paid those donos.
Hey,
I
thanks
just
for coming on, man.
Ashton,
I hope you didn't get pissed at me like last year when I wasn't heavy on your case, but I was like, come on, Ashton.
Well, let me put it like this, man. Obviously, what I'm saying is fucking impossible, right? And I'm a rational guy that realized going into this, like, you're going to have people that get angry, people that are sure that the videos are fake and what have you. So all I can really do, I don't even like arguing about it, because it's like, look, I'm just going to say they're real. I know they're real. And I'm going to point to things that will ideally be proven in the future. And you guys are on it. Like the plasma stuff, Eric W. Davis, you guys know the right people. The problem is, it's like, ask yourself this. Eric Davis, for example, gave away some information that he was working on those black projects in like the early 2000s and maybe even the 90s. Look at what papers he was writing during those years. He was writing ball lightning study and teleportation physics study while he was for Air Force Research Labs, while he's working on black projects. You think that's a coincidence?
yeah,
I think Eric Davis is pretty freaking smart.
And now he's sitting in the middle of this thing like he's like a fucking celebrity, and Anna Polina Luna is looking like she wants to like jerk him off. Like, come on. Like, obviously, if you read between the lines here, they figured some shit out, you know, and he's the main guy. And the question you should ask yourself is, what is he not saying? He's talking about the 5 different types of aliens, and, you know, Hal Puthoff will talk about remote viewing for 2 hours with Joe Rogan. But are they talking about free energy? Are they talking about cold fusion? Are they talking about how to stabilize a ball of plasma? Are they talking about teleportation?
Those
They're
are
not talking about any of that, right?
None of it. But
That's all
that's
and that would all be
what
national
Jeremy's
security, right?
been talking about for 15 years.
That's
It's
the
what
stuff
I've been
we
working
keep
on and
talking
talking
about.
about. It's the real stuff. And that's what Ashton has been finding and also correlating. And it's like everything Ashton has put forward so far in your MH370 investigation, like Edward Lynn. Like, if it was bunk, why hasn't he come out or sued Ashton? Why has he changed his name and moved and avoided, right? Like, there's just so many other bigger things. And then there's, why is every single one of the fake mainstream media UFO gatekeepers like Corbell, like Cold Heart, all of them instantly, they just say, oh, there was the cloud pictures. It's the Mockingbird media, their straight go-to thing, and then just, oh, don't pay attention to Ashton, he's just a grifter. When you look into his work, it's the exact same stuff, science, we've been putting forward and working on for the last 2 decades. So, you know, that's just
if we got Ross on here, we would eat him alive. That guy doesn't know a damn thing. He just interviews people.
And here's the thing,
like, just gotten into this in the last, like, what, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
Good luck, buddy. It takes like 25 years, 30 years to figure out what the hell's actually partially what's going on. How about it, Jeremy?
Well,
how long have we been doing this, bro? I met you in like 2007, and I had already been doing it in the early 90s.
We're OGs, man, and because of us, we're able to accelerate newcomers that are do
right,
look
so
right
here's
information.
one last thing to tie it together.
So.
You are the OGs. You guys were Ed Fouché. Ed Fouché was the tr3b, and then it's like, why was Cold Heart always pushing, and Jeremy Corbell, they were always pushing the orbs before Ashton Forbes came along. Now they no longer do that. And then now they're all of a sudden, before they were always against the tr3b, and now, oh, it's 2 triangles. And so it's the flip. Yeah. Why is it? And it all, that's no freaking coincidence.
Let me tell you something about knowing Ed Fouché. Just recently, just like when Jeremy will tell you this, all 3 of our computers would go out at once. Jeremy's would go, mine would go, Ed's would go, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they, Jeremy? They would just go. I had 2 computers blow up.
I think they were listening to and monitoring all our conversations with that.
I had 2 computers blow up.
Before I drop, is that, so my evaluation has been that for you guys, like, the reason why I come on these podcasts and streams is because, like, I think you guys have been figuring out the science way before me, you know, and credit to you guys on all that. I think that you just didn't know what is the end goal. Like, what is it that they actually have that's real versus what's just make-believe? And how would you know? There's no way to know exactly, right? And I came in.
Why we have the labs.
And I came in and I found the answers from those videos of, okay, this is what they have, but I don't know what it means, how it works, how do you get there, right? And start working backwards. And we just kind of converged in the middle. And then and that's how we kind of done this stuff. And for me, the reason why it seems like I'm like a spook is because I've basically realized that early on, this was a propaganda war. And I'm just going to play like it's counter intel, which is, okay, what are their narratives? Okay, it's aliens, whatever. What's the counter narrative? Oh, well, how's that UFO flying around? So my last point is that's one of the most powerful ones, because to Bernie's point about Bob Lazar and everyone else, there is no conventional source of fuel that you're going to conventionally fly from here to the Andromeda galaxy in a small craft. There's just no space for it because of E=mc squared. It doesn't matter what your fuel source is unless it's magic fairy farts, right?
How do you keep from running into something also? That's another thing people never talk about. You get larger as you keep going. The faster you go, the larger you get.
Yes, exactly. And so that's what stops everything. So the point is, there must be
something. There's another form of travel, and I don't give a shit what anybody thinks of what I say here. I think it has something to do with going through the ocean. I really do, because there's something tied into the ocean. How do we know there's not an inner Earth? How do we know there's not?
All right, you're going way too deep, man. You guys have way too much.
Keep fighting those narratives.
You don't have a lot of time. I just want to say this is what I want to say. We have to be skeptical, everyone. I'm going to mean it, you know, I'm always skeptical of everything. There's so much disinfo in this space. You have to just ask questions about who's who and who is everyone in this whole mix, and how to who's working for who, and are we inadvertently pointing people in the wrong direction, wrong information. So I think it's key that, don't get caught up in these conversations about the videos. Focus on those scientists and the scientists that were on the board, those planes, and the science are the strongest key to breaking this case and actually getting somewhere and getting to the bottom of it. I've always said that. I've always, said I'm never going to win the debate over the videos or any of the other more esoteric stuff on this channel. It's not where and that's the infighting that wrecked 9/11 Truth. I want to talk. I talk about this. The same methods that they used to destroy 9/11 Truth, they're using to destroy your MH370 Truth, and they used it to destroy these hearings with the UAP Truth by the people that they put in charge there. I watched it all happen. I've lived through it for 20 years, and I'm trying to share that information and that warning, because you don't want to get lost in that infighting and getting lost in those things, or that's just going to tear everything apart, and everyone's going to lose sight of the nuggets of truth that exist and all this stuff, which is the technology that we're after, which is very fucking real. And they killed those Marconi scientists. They killed Eugene Malov and many others over the technology, and they put out massive amounts of disinformation to hide the real technology. So yeah, we're in quite of a mess right now trying to resolve all this. And I thank you for your efforts in the information war. And the best way to prove you're not a disinfo agent is to get me on your damn channel soon for a recap, man. Let's do this.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Maybe, actually, I was planning on having you come on next. I want to do some more stuff with other content creators and help just, spread awareness in general and get people's names out there.
The key way to get through the censorship, the algorithms, and the shadow banning is by the multi-streaming this stuff and multi-publishing it and just getting the real science out there. And anything that's real can handle scrutiny. That's the point. And you don't crumble. So far, it hasn't crumbled, and it keeps coming under scrutiny. So anything you work on, especially cold fusion, alchemy, myself, like average person, that's wackadoo. But you put the science, you put the results first, and it stands up.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is a lot of people would rather correct you and feel smart than go up against something where they can't really correct you and don't feel smart, right? So that's why I think the videos argument have attracted so many people, because they're like, oh, I know video editing, and this is and they have some kind of hill that they can stand on in the whole fight and win a couple battles on the battlefield, but really the truth remains far in the distance if they're not going after the scientists and the companies like I mentioned, Blackstone Group. Important to mention those guys, and that Blackstone Group has ties to 9/11 and the whole insurance scam at the World Trade Center. So
I would like to put forward one challenge, and it's for the MH370 Ashton debunk. If you want to claim to debunk Ashton's case legally debunk that Edward Lynn is not the leaker or involved with that whistleblower. Because until you do that, that doesn't come under scrutiny. You don't pass the scrutiny test because that needs to be taken into account.
Great point. Thank you, Bernie. And what last thing I thought about as well was chasing the science is the answer anyway. That's why every day I'm not posting about MH370 is real, whatever, right? Because, you know, what am I really getting at? I think we can get ahead of the fusion breakthrough because I think the fusion breakthrough never was going to be hot fusion. It's going to be a version of cold fusion, and they're not going to give us like the real deal. They're going to give us a gimped version of it, and we can get ahead of it. And we might actually be able to manipulate the markets by showing that, like, no, they've shown, like, just taking their schematics, we can show they could do it better, and they're just not, right? We'll be able to show shit like that. Or, like, with brilliant light power, their UV ray stuff, I think there's a huge clue in finding out that flash is, like, ultraviolet or soft X-ray, because it means that Alcubierre warp drive is, like, the right thing to be focused in on, so... Anyway, thank you guys for having me on tonight.
Hey, real quick, Ashton, I got 2 real quick questions for you. Are you going to be at the Bob Bazaar? Are you going to be at the Bob Bazaar thing if it takes place? Because now it's been moved back to July.
Any plans for conferences? Anything planned for the summer or the fall?
Oh, I'm doing the Cosmic Summit. I'll be there. At
Me and
nice.
You're not going? I figured you'd be there. Me and Michael Stroud will be there.
Going to Cosmic Summit. Second question.
I'll be at Contact in the Desert too. So.
Oh, all right.
So yeah, I'm going to be at several things. So we can hang out if you guys are going to be at any of this stuff.
That would be awesome. I'll bring you one of the Pokeballs, the Pokemon balls.
Oh yeah, I want one of those. That's awesome. I'll put it in my bag something here. So okay, guys, have a great night.
Totally.
Yeah, you too, Ashton. Cool talking to you, man.
Oh, that was good for him to jump on, man. Yeah, I'm
right.
glad.
He's a pretty good dude.
Jeremy Corbell, Lou Elizondo, you talk shit about them and they're in the chat. They will hide. They will run. They will never jump on the stream and take
stand by their truth.
Bro, I'm going to be hanging out with Gene Huff. I'm going to be rolling with Gene Huff at the Bob Lazar movie. That's going to really be funny, isn't it?
Bob Lazar is so essential to your guys' stuff is because you know the science and debunk the shit out of it. Like your website.
I'm going to meet him.
I
know the science and he knows the whole like story and all the people and
Gene Huff is going to take me back to meet Bob. Bob Lazar said he likes watching my questions, and he found that that my one question about the element 115, known as LE 1000, melting at 1750 degrees. He found that I asked him a question. I called him on the phone. I said, hey, I want to talk to Bob Lazar. It was kind of arranged. I said, I have one question for you. I said, if Jeremy, what's that? What's the term for when the atomic explosion takes place inside the
thermonuclear reactor? It was thermionic. He said it was. He used a lot of words. Science.
It's called something, but it takes 2 million degrees to do it. It's the damn it. Anyways, inside that reactor, you have element 115. Element 115 bumps up to element 116.
Exactly.
When it bumps up to element 116 is when all the power is released. There is
unsustainable amounts of energy, just like hot fusion, right? Don't ever go for that.
Well,
but don't look for cold fusion, and that's the whole point of it.
Bob says it's what Bob says it is. He says it's at 2 million degrees. And you look it up, it's 2 million degrees. It's I can't remember the damn word for it now, and I have that stuff in the back of my brain.
I would just like to say one thing, and I'll shut up and leave because I have to actually get back to our Free Energy Friday League of Extraordinary Inventors stream with we got Steve Ellswick on and a bunch of other guys. But point being is that Bob Lazar, Jeremy Cowbell, Lou Elizondo, Ross Colhart, they are all fake as fuck compared to at least Ashton, you challenge and he comes on. None of those have ever addressed and come on any of your streams for the 10 years you've been doing it. So until
he never went to Congress.
That's just, they don't pass that test, at least
I
This guy
will
is
say
able to address things, right? That's all I'm
They
going to
want
say.
that congregate.
nuclear isomers are well known, so it's possible. I mean, the hafnium jumps up to element one element and down an element in the process of this reflection of the generation of the gamma rays. It's actually part of the
That
nuclear
can happen, right?
process. So
You
it does
can-
happen, and it is related to classified nuclear stuff that they were working on. I mean, this was H-bomb secrets and stuff. He might have known or heard some of this stuff. So it's an interesting. There's a lot of real physics and a lot of weird stuff that's classified, woven into the Bob Lazar stuff.
But I think a lot of what he learned was at Los Alamos.
Yeah, stuff that he
He
learned
was working with
there.
geniuses, and they were coming over to his little brothel, and stuff. And he had a
Yeah.
lot of friends.
Oh yeah, he was a popular guy with his rocket car, driving around Los Alamos and talking like the physics talk with tons of people. He talked shop with a lot of people, and he's also the United Nuclear guy. If you needed materials or you needed stuff,
$175 posters, bullshit though. When people say he doesn't make money off that damn story, that's a lie. Because listen, that kid said some days he packs 100 signed posters at $175 a piece. Oh my God, think about that. That's what, $10,750 in one day, but you're not making any money off of it. Then a signed picture of him himself is, I think, 125. I was showing Michael Schratt this the other night. Michael Schratt was in shock. I'm like, look at the price of an Area 50 mug, Area 51 mug, and all this stuff. He's making money off this stuff.
Yeah.
It's all bullcrap when he says he doesn't make money. That kind of aggravates me. Well, no, it aggravates the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie.